I stand alone on the uneven cobblestones, the afternoon sun warming my back as Brad's rental car disappears around the corner of a whitewashed building. The laughter of his college friends trails behind like exhaust fumes, hanging in the air long after the tires stop squealing. My phone weighs heavy in my palm. My wedding ring catches the light, throwing golden reflections against the ancient stone wall beside me. A local woman passes, basket of bread tucked under her arm. Her eyes meet mine with that unmistakable look pity. She knows what I don't want to admit. I've been abandoned in a foreign country by my husband of 10 years. 30 minutes ago, we sat at a seaside restaurant overlooking the Atlantic. White tablecloths snapped in the breeze while Brad held court, on his 5th drink before the entrees arrived. His college roommates hung on every exaggerated story, their faces flushed with alcohol and admiration. Remember when Miller convinced that bouncer he was the governor's son? One friend slapped the table, rattling the silverware. The man actually apologized. Brad leaned back, basking in their approval. I watched his glass empty again, ice clinking against crystal, and reached across the table to touch his wrist. Maybe slow down? We have that coastal drive later, I said quietly, careful to keep my voice light. The cliffs along the route were treacherous enough without alcohol clouding his judgment. The table fell silent. Brad's smile hardened at the edges. This, he said, pulling his arm away, is why nobody wanted you on this trip. His friends shifted in their seats. One coughed into his napkin while another suddenly found the menu fascinating. I felt heat crawl at my neck. I'm just concerned about... Brad pushed back from the table, chair legs scraping against stone. Keys. He snapped his fingers at the friend to his right, who fished in his pocket and tossed them over. Brad caught them one-handed and dropped them in front of another friend. You drive. Palmer wants to see that lighthouse anyway. What about Claire? Someone asked, voice low. Brad looked at me, really looked at me, for the first time all afternoon. His blue eyes were cold, assessing. Something shuddered behind them, a decision made. Find your own way back, he said flatly. Maybe walk, you could use it. I reached for my purse, instinct kicking in before my brain caught up. My fingers froze midair. Brad had my wallet. For safety, he'd insisted this morning. Small towns, pickpockets, women make easy targets. His hand now rested on the leather billfold in his pocket. They all stood at once, a wall of pressed linen shirts and expensive sunglasses. Brad tossed euros onto the table, more than enough for the bill. A show of generosity for the staff, a reminder of my dependence for me. As they filed past, no one met my eyes. The restaurant owner watched from the doorway, his weathered face revealing nothing. But his gentle nod in my direction spoke volumes. He'd seen this before. Tourist marriages breaking apart on vacation, leaving debris scattered across his beautiful coastline. By midnight, I sit on the edge of a twin bed in a modest guest house. The mattress sags beneath me, springs protesting. Moonlight spills through thin curtains as I count out my emergency cash for the 3rd time. 125 euros exactly. The crisp bills were sewn into the lining of my suitcase after my college roommate was robbed in Italy. For emergencies, I'd thought then. Not for when my husband becomes the thief. My 10th call rolls to voicemail. Brad's cheerful greeting cuts off with a beep. I hang up without leaving another message. My phone pings with an incoming text, and my heart jumps with foolish hope. Brad, cool off. Maybe now you'll learn not to embarrass me. I type and delete 5 responses before setting the phone down. When I pick it back up, I discover he's blocked me on Instagram, then Facebook. Then my email bounces back. This wasn't impulsive. He planned this lesson. The ceiling fan turns lazy circles above me. Tomorrow, I'll figure out how to get home. Tonight, I let the tears come. Dawn breaks over unfamiliar rooftops. Terracotta tiles glow copper in the early light. I've slept perhaps 2 hours, but clarity has arrived with the sun. I compose an email to my college friend Melissa, too ashamed to explain fully. Unexpected change of plans in Portugal. Might need a little help. Will call when I can. I take inventory of what remains. Passport tucked in my bra, phone at 15% battery, wedding earrings Brad gave me on our first anniversary. The pearl drops were an investment, he'd said. Today they might become one in ways he never intended. The pawnshop owner examines the earrings through a jeweler's loupe, his expression carefully neutral. His assessment of their worth is matched only by his assessment of me, a foreign woman, alone, desperate. Would I crawl back as Brad expected? Or was this the moment Claire Miller finally disappeared? The bus terminal smells of diesel and desperation. I scan the routes displayed on a cracked monitor, my vision sharper than it's been in days. Lisbon, Madrid, Barcelona. Each name a possibility. Each destination a choice Brad doesn't control. My finger traces the route to Galicia, not closer to home, farther away. The ticket clerk raises an eyebrow when I push euros across the counter. Solo? He asks. I nod, the word feeling true in more ways than one. A payphone stands in the corner, its plastic shells scratched with graffiti. I feed it coins and dial Brad's number from memory. After 4 rings, his voicemail answers. Brad, it's me. I steady my voice, crafting a lie with surgical precision. I'm coming back. I found a way to get a car service. We'll talk tonight. I hang up before truth can betray me. The overnight bus to Spain grumbles to life at midnight. As we cross the border, I twist my wedding ring from my finger, the indentation in my skin a pale shadow. I drop the gold band into the deepest pocket of my bag, burying the weight of 10 years beneath a packet of tissues and half a granola bar. Noon sun hammers the back of my neck as I stumble from the bus station. My mouth tastes like cotton, stomach cramping from too little food and too much fear. The driver called this place Santiago de Compostela, but it might as well be Mars. I clutch my dwindling euros, each bill representing fewer hours of survival. Green hills roll into the distance, dotted with stone buildings. A vineyard appears on the horizon, rows of vines marching up a hillside like soldiers. My vision blurs. I blink, but the world tilts sideways. 1 foot before the other. Just keep moving. The gravel road cuts my shoes. Chicago flats weren't made for country miles. When my legs finally buckle, I fall among the vines, face pressed against earth still cool beneath its surface. The soil smells sweet and alive. In sickness and in health. Brad's voice floats through memory, champagne glass raised beneath twinkling lights. Our wedding day, his blue eyes promising forever. The irony tastes bitter as copper. When sickness came, it wasn't my body that failed, but our vows. Now strangers might find me where my husband ended me. Darkness pulls me under. Voices drift through consciousness, speaking words I don't understand. Rough hands, gentle despite their strength, lift me from the ground. A man's weathered face swims into focus, deep lines around his eyes creasing with concern. Beside him, a woman with silver-streaked hair tied back in a practical knot presses a water bottle to my lips. Agua, she says, the word penetrating my fog. The farmhouse kitchen gleams with copper pots and smells of garlic and wine. They settle me at a wooden table that bears a century of knife marks. The woman Rosa, I will learn, wraps a blanket around my shoulders while the man Joaquin pours wine into a simple glass. American, he asks, the word heavily accented. I nod, tears springing without permission. Rosa shoos him back with rapid Spanish, then takes my hands in hers. Her skin feels like well-loved leather, creased and strong. No shared language, but she understands. She brings bread, cheese, more water. When fever claims me again, she leads me to a narrow bed with sheets that smell of sunshine. Él me dejó sin nada, I murmur in clumsy Spanish gleaned from a phrase book, as she places a cool cloth on my forehead. He left me with nothing. Rosa's eyes narrow, ancient fury flickering behind them. Then softening, she pats my hand, nodding slowly. Mi casa, tu casa. First kindness in days. I sleep for 14 hours. Rosa's computer wheezes like an asthmatic cat. The monitor, ancient and bulky, casts blue light across her sewing room. My fingers tremble as I type my banking password. The screen loads, numbers appearing like a blow to the chest. 0.00. Joint savings emptied. Checking account drained. Credit cards maxed and frozen. My email inbox overflows with unread messages. One from Brad to my parents catches my eye. Subject line, concerned about Claire. I click it open, breath stuck in my lungs. Mom and Dad, I'm worried about Claire's latest episode. She wandered off during our Portugal trip and refuses to come back to the hotel. I've arranged for a car service, but she's being difficult. You know how she gets when she's not taking her medication properly. Rage burns cold and clean. I never had episodes. Never needed medication. The careful fiction stuns me with its craftsmanship. How long has he been laying this groundwork? I scroll further, finding messages between Brad and his college friends from 3 days before our trip. She needs a lesson about embarrassing me in public. Portugal's perfect, she doesn't speak the language, doesn't know anyone. You sure about this, man? Seems extreme. Trust me, 2 days max before she's begging to come back. She's nothing without me. The screen blurs through tears. Not tears of heartbreak, tears of recognition. I've been disappearing for years, piece by piece, while he slowly convinced me it was normal. Dawn breaks over the vineyard in streaks of pink and gold. I stand in Joaquin's shadow, watching his hands demonstrate proper pruning technique. The vines need shaping, he explains through gestures, pointing out which branches must go for the plant to thrive. My palms blister by noon. Rosa clucks disapprovingly, wrapping them in homemade salve. But the next morning, I'm back among the rows before breakfast. Working feels like prayer, mindless, healing, productive. In the kitchen, Rosa stations me beside her, knife in hand. She taps vegetables from their garden, demonstrating cuts, onions, peppers, tomatoes. The rhythms of feeding oneself not from restaurants or delivery apps, but earth and effort. At night, I stare at hands once manicured for charity galas and client meetings. Dirt traces the lines of my palms like fortune teller's ink. Calluses form where designer pens once rested. These hands look capable of building something, not just decorating what already exists. Would you recognize freedom if it looked like starting over? The mirror doesn't lie, but sometimes it surprises. 2 months in Spain has transformed me in ways no expensive Chicago salon ever could. My fingertips trace the unfamiliar planes of my face, a skin bronzed by the Spanish sun, freckles scattered across my nose and cheekbones like constellations. The designer clothes hang loose now, my body reshaped by physical labor rather than Pilates classes. My reflection blinks back at me. Who is this woman with calloused hands and sun-streaked hair? Without the careful makeup, without the clothes Brad selected, without the constant monitoring of my appearance through his eyes, I'm someone else entirely. Or perhaps, for the first time, actually myself. I pull a faded cotton shirt over my head and step out into the vineyard morning. The sun crests the eastern hills, painting everything gold. Joaquin is already among the vines, his weathered hands moving with practiced precision. When he sees me, he nods, a simple acknowledgement that needs no words. Last night, I slept without dreaming of Chicago. The realization hits me only now, standing in the cool morning air. 8 straight hours without seeing our lakeside apartment, without hearing Brad's voice, without feeling the familiar weight of that life pressing down on me. I breathe deeply, filling my lungs with the earthy scent of the vineyard. Ven aquí, Clara. Rosa waves from the stone outbuilding where wine has been made the same way for generations. My name sounds different in her, softer, warmer. Inside, wooden vats tower above us. The fermentation room smells of fruit and thyme. Rosa demonstrates the process again, her movements efficient from decades of practice. I watch her hands, these hands that have never known manicures but know exactly how to coax perfect wine from imperfect fruit. Ahora too, she says, stepping back. My turn. I plunge my arms into the crushed grapes, the juice cool against my skin. This isn't the sterile, controlled environment of modern winemaking. This is ancient, tactile, intimate. Rosa nods approval as I follow her methods. Today, I am learning to create something real. They want to know about the fermenting process. I've stepped forward without thinking. The small group of American tourists look surprised they didn't expect an English-speaking guide at this remote Spanish vineyard. But their relief is palpable as I translate Joaquin's explanation, adding details I've learned these past months. We use natural fermentation, I tell them, my voice steadier than I expect. No commercial yeasts. The process takes longer but preserves flavors unique to this hillside, this soil. The tourists nod, snapping photos. A man in a crisp white shirt peels away from the group when the others follow Joaquin to the next station. He introduces himself as Miguel, owner of a restaurant in the nearby coastal town. Your Spanish vineyards, they struggle to reach new markets, he says, handing me his card. But your wine? Very good, very, how you say, authentic. I would like 10 bottles for my restaurant. Before I can call Joaquin, the restaurant owner names a price low, barely covering costs. 2 months ago, I wouldn't have recognized this. Now I see it clearly. For such quality, the price is €15 per bottle, I counter, keeping my voice pleasant but firm. For 10 bottles, perhaps 14. His eyebrows rise, but his eyes show respect. We settle on €13.50, and he promises to return next week. When I hand the euros to Joaquin, explaining the arrangement, his surprise is evident. You made good price, he says in his limited English. Better than distributor. That night, I place the money in an empty olive jar, labeled with a strip of masking tape. Claire's future. The coins click against glass with a sound like possibility. The vineyard office resembles an archaeological dig. Decades of papers fill wooden cabinets, ledgers record transactions in faded ink, and an ancient computer sits dormant in the corner. May I? I ask Rosa, gesturing to the chaos. When she nods, I begin. Hours turn to days as I sort, organize, and modernize. The computer wheezes to life after I clean years of dust from its innards. I create simple spreadsheets tracking inventory, sales, costs. My phone, finally charged and functional, becomes a camera to photograph bottles against the vineyard backdrop. What is this? Joaquin asks when I show him the Instagram account I've created. Viñedo Segunda Oportunidad, Second Chance Vineyard. Marketing, I explain, showing him the likes already accumulating. People see, people buy. Within weeks, 3 more restaurants contact us directly. The dusty ledgers show the old distributor took almost 40%. Now that money stays here, with Rosa and Joaquin, with us. Mi hija se fue. Rosa says one evening as we shell peas at the kitchen table, my daughter left. Between my broken Spanish and translation apps, the story emerges. Rosa's daughter left for Canada years ago, abandoning the vineyard for city life. The pain in Rosa's eyes mirrors what I've seen in my own. I find myself telling her everything. About Brad's public humiliation, about the abandoned wife on Portuguese streets, about the emptied accounts and calculated cruelty. I decorated houses, I admit, the translation app struggling with my nuance. Beautiful spaces for other people, but I never built a home. Rosa reaches across the table, her fingers wrapping around mine. She understands loss in ways my Chicago friends never could. Later, as we transfer wine to bottles, I knock over a crate. Glass shatters. Red wine spreads across stone like spilled blood. I freeze, waiting for anger that doesn't come. Instead, Rosa laughs a full-bodied sound that bounces off the cellar walls. Vino para la tierra, she says. Wine for the earth. The absurdity hits me and suddenly I'm laughing too. Real laughter that bubbles up from someplace long sealed shut. We stand in puddles of wasted wine, surrounded by broken glass, howling until tears stream down our faces. It's the first time I've genuinely laughed since Portugal. 4 months after my collapse among these vines, Joaquin arrives with a thin man carrying a leather briefcase. He introduces Alberto as abogado lawyer. They spread papers across the kitchen table. The documents are entirely in Spanish, legal terms I can't decipher. I concentrate, catching familiar words, but the meaning eludes me. No entiendo, I confess. I don't understand. Alberto speaks careful English. Señor Joaquin and Señora Rosa wish to make you partner, 25% of vineyard business. I stare at them, certain I've misunderstood. Why? Joaquin gestures around us. You fix office. Make new customers. Bring young ideas. But the vineyard belongs in your family, I protest. Rosa takes my hand, squeezing gently. Her eyes are kind but serious. Familia elige a cada uno. Her words are slow, making sure I understand. Family chooses each other. My throat tightens. I sign where Alberto indicates, my new signature looking strange against the formal Spanish text. That night, as crickets sing outside my window, my phone pings. A notification from an email account I haven't checked in weeks. The subject line freezes the blood in my veins. I know where you are. From Brad Miller. I read Brad's email a third time, my fingers tight around my coffee mug as Spanish sunlight warms the vineyard porch. The words swim before my eyes, glowing cold from the ancient computer screen. The private investigator was expensive but worth it. My stomach knots. 4 months of safety uttered by a single message. I'll be there Thursday. Time to bring you home where you belong. Thursday. 3 days from now. The trembling begins in my hands, coffee rippling in concentric circles. I set the mug down before it spills. My hard-won calm fractures as memories flood back his cold eyes in that Portuguese restaurant, the car disappearing around the whitewashed corner, the pawnshop owner's calculating gaze. Quien te amenaza? Joaquin appears beside me, his weathered face creased with concern. Who threatens you? I turn the screen toward him. Mi esposo, viene aquí. My husband, he's coming here. The lawyer's office smells of leather and old paper. Señor Vasquez slides documents across his desk papers in dual columns of Spanish and English. Divorce papers. The word alone would have terrified me 6 months ago. Now it feels like drawing a boundary line across my life, before and after Portugal. We document everything, he explains in careful English. The abandonment, the emptied accounts. He taps sections of text with a blunt finger. Very strong case. I remove my thumb drive from my pocket. The evidence is here. Text messages planning the lesson. Emails to my parents claiming I was unstable. My voice doesn't waver now. In this, I slide the vineyard partnership agreement across his desk. Proof I've established a new life. Rosa waits outside, arms folded across her chest. When we return to the farmhouse, she leads me to her bedroom and opens the cedar wardrobe. Her fingers move decisively through the hanging clothes. No, she says, pushing aside a colorful dress I'd admired last week. No, bonita. Fuerte. Not pretty. Strong. She selects simple piece-tailored pants, a crisp white shirt, low leather boots, practical, not decorative, armor, not attraction. I catch her rough hand in mine. Gracias. The village hums with the news by afternoon. I explain the situation to Father Mateo on the stone bench outside the church. The mountains stretched purple and blue beyond us. His silver eyebrows draw together as my broken Spanish conveys enough. He will come to take you, he asks. He will try, I answer. By evening, Marco from the restaurant finds me among the vines. You bring him to me, he insists, chest puffed forward like a rooster. My place. Many people. Very safe. He makes a sweeping gesture encompassing the village. We are watching for him. Javier, who drives the regional bus, nods firmly when I pass him in the square. Un americano en traje caro? I see him first. I tell everyone. Their protectiveness wraps around me like a blanket on a cold night. Dawn breaks pink across the eastern hills. I sit cross-legged between rows of grapevines, breathing in the earth's mineral scent. The vines are stubborn survivors, growing where little else will, turning poor soil into something valuable. I've come to understand them in ways Chicago Claire never would have imagined. I rehearse my words without heat. I won't be returning with you. Not I can't or I shouldn't. Simple fact. The divorce papers require only your signature. Not an apology or explanation. Rosa finds me there, the rising sun painting her face gold and copper. She turns me toward the farmhouse, her hands gentle on my shoulders. In the kitchen, she settles me in a chair and sections my hair with practiced fingers. Mi madre hizo esto, she explains as she braids my hair tight against my scalp in the local style. My mother did this. Each twist feels like another layer of protection. I retrieve my wedding ring from the bottom of my suitcase, unwrapping it from the tissue paper where it's rested these months. The gold catches the light as I place it on the kitchen table, a small circle that once defined my entire world. Later, as the sun descends toward afternoon, I burn the last photograph of our wedding day in the fire pit behind the farmhouse. The flame licks at our smiling faces, curling the paper's edges until Brad's perfectly tailored tuxedo blackens and disappears. The phone rings as I button the white shirt Rosa chose. Joaquin answers, his voice a low rumble from the front room. He appears in my doorway, eyes somber. "Ha llegado," he says simply. He has arrived. I expected my hands to shake, but they move with surprising steadiness over the buttons. I check my reflection. One woman Brad wouldn't recognize stares back. My sun-browned face holds none of the careful makeup he preferred. My hair, braided tight, reveals features no longer soft with compliance. We walk together through the village, Rosa and Joaquin flanking me like an honor guard. The vineyard stretches behind us, rows of green against golden earth. My back straightens with each step toward Marco's restaurant. At the worn wooden door, I pause. Rosa squeezes my hand once, then steps back. Joaquin nods toward the entrance. Estamos aquí. We are here. I push the door open. The man I once built my life around looks suddenly smaller than I remembered. Brad stands in the doorway, a slash of American affluence against the rustic backdrop. His tailored linen pants and crisp blue button-down look absurd here, like he's dressed for a yacht club meeting but wandered into a farm supply store. His cologne, same sandalwood scent I once bought him for Christmas, collides with the earthy aroma of wine barrels and fresh bread. "Baby," he says, that familiar smile spreading across his face, the one that charmed bank managers and my parents alike. This little adventure has gone far enough. I say nothing, letting the silence stretch between us. 4 months ago, I would have rushed to fill it to soothe the tension. Now I understand the power of waiting. The restaurant hums with quiet activity. Old men nursing afternoon drinks pause mid-sip. Women pretend to discuss recipes while watching from the corner. My audience. My witnesses. Brad crosses the room, confidence in each step. He pulls out the chair across from me, the legs scraping against terracotta tiles. His hand reaches for mine on the table. I slide the divorce papers toward him instead. Antonio appears at Brad's shoulder, setting a glass of garnet wine before me. Nothing for Brad. My husband's eyes flick to the server, then back to the papers, the smile faltering at the edges. "Your parents are worried sick about you," he says, pushing the papers aside without looking at them. "They think you've had some kind of breakdown." I take a measured sip of wine. The taste of blackberries and oak grounds me to this moment, to this place where I've found my footing. "I've had to put my career on hold searching for you." His voice drops, intimate, as if sharing a confidence. Clients asking questions. Partners wondering if I'm stable enough to handle their portfolios when I can't even keep track of my wife. When I still don't respond, his fingers drum once, twice on the wooden table. "You know this little vineyard won't survive a lawsuit," he says, voice hardening. "Operating without proper permits, hiring an undocumented American worker." He leans forward. "I have excellent attorneys, Claire." I remember how these threats once paralyzed me, how his displeasure felt like standing on a frozen lake hearing the first crack beneath my feet. "Remember Paris?" His voice softens again, reaching for nostalgia like another tool from his belt. Our anniversary at that little hotel with the view of Notre Dame? We can go back next month, start over. My silence has become a wall he cannot scale. I reach for my phone, unlock it with a finger swipe, and slide it across the table. The screen shows the group chat between Brad and his college friends from 2 days before our Portugal trip. Brad, thinking it's time to teach the wife a lesson she won't forget. Miller, the Portugal plan's still on? Brad, absolutely. She's been impossible lately. Talking about her design career again. Time she remembers who makes the real money. His face drains of color as he scrolls, seeing the screenshots I've collected. Our joint bank accounts emptied 3 days after he left me. The email to my parents claiming I was having another episode. The pawn receipt for my wedding earrings that bought me 3 nights in a hostel before I found the bus to Spain. You left me with 125 euros. I say, my voice steady, thinking I'd crawl back. His head snaps up at the sound of my voice. I gesture toward the window where the vineyard stretches across the hillside, rows of vines catching the afternoon light. I'm not the woman you abandoned in Portugal. Brad's expression shifts, calculation replacing shock. What about our history? 10 years together, Claire. You're throwing away a decade over one bad day? The sun slants through the window, warming my shoulders. The same sun that watched me collapse among the vines, that witnessed my rebirth as I learned to prune and tend and harvest. That saw me build something from nothing while he believed I was broken. I survived because you left me, I say, not despite it. His mouth opens, then closes. For perhaps the first time in our relationship, Brad Miller has no words. Joaquin appears in the doorway, his weathered face impassive. He doesn't speak English, but his years of farming have taught him to read storms in the air. El camino a Madrid es largo, he says quietly. Deberías salir antes del anochecer. Brad looks between us, uncomprehending. The road to Madrid is long, I translate. You should leave before nightfall. Understanding dawns on Brad's face not just of the words, but of their meaning. He has lost control completely. His gaze falls to the divorce papers. With quick, angry movements, he signs each flagged page without reading them. No argument, no negotiation. The fight has left him. I remove my wedding ring, the one I carried in my bag since Spain, a talisman of a different life, and place it on the table with a soft click against wood. We stand. Joaquin holds the door as Brad walks out ahead of me. Through the window, I watch him pause on the cobblestones, adjusting his expensive watch, straightening his shoulders like armor against what he can't understand. I step outside into the golden Spanish afternoon, Rosa joining us from where she waited across the street. Together, the 3 of us walk toward the vineyard, my chosen family flanking me on either side. Behind us, Brad stands alone on the uneven stones of a foreign village, watching us grow smaller with each step. Watching me disappear for the second time, but now on my terms. I adjust the final bottle of Albarino in the rustic wooden display, angling the label to catch afternoon light streaming through the barn's open doors. 6 months of hard work culminates in this Momentor Vineyard's first official tasting event. The converted barn buzzes with voices speaking Spanish, English, and the universal language of appreciation. Perfect, I whisper, stepping back to survey my handiwork. The space bridges my past and present. Chicago-trained eyes guided the transformation of this once empty storage barn into an elegant tasting room. But my hands, now calloused and strong, helped sand the reclaimed wood tables and hang the wrought iron light fixtures. Wine barrels serve as both functional displays and design elements. Wildflowers from the hillside fill hand-thrown pottery vases, their blues and yellows echoing the vineyard's new logo. Rosa appears beside me, her weathered hand squeezing mine. Claire, she calls out to the gathering crowd of local restaurant owners and curious tourists. Mi hija, my daughter. The Spanish words no longer need translation in my mind. She makes our old vines young again. My chest tightens with sudden emotion as Rosa leads me toward the main entrance where Joaquin unveils our new sign. Hand-carved wood announces Viñedo Segunda Oportunidad, with my name carved beneath theirs. Second Chance Vineyard, my second chance. That evening, after our successful launch, I sink into the chair at my cottage desk and open my laptop. An email from Mark Donovan, my former design mentor in Chicago, sits prominently in my inbox. Claire, I've been trying to track you down. Lopez Hospitality is developing eco-lodges across North America and needs a consultant with your sustainable design background. 6-month contract, remote work possible. Interested? I smile at the timing as my fingers hover over the keyboard. 6 months ago, this offer would have felt like rescue. Tonight, it feels like integration. I'd love to contribute, but I'm based in Spain now. I attach photos of the barn renovation and our in-progress plans for the stone cottage conversions. The pictures show whitewashed walls, exposed beams, and terraces overlooking rolling vineyard hills. My design background and current work blend perfectly for this project. Let's discuss how I can contribute remotely, with occasional travel as needed. The next morning, sunlight warms the community center's worn wooden floors as 12 local women arrange chairs in a semicircle. I organize handout simple business plans, marketing calendars, and budget templates I've translated into Spanish. Buenos dias. I begin, my accent still American, but my confidence growing. Today we discuss business fundamentals. The translator beside me repeats my words, but I continue with the phrases I've practiced for days. Your worth isn't determined by someone else's valuation. I say, watching understanding dawn across faces that have become familiar over months of market days and church services. I hand out business cards I designed last week. They display both addresses me cottage in Galicia and my parents' home in Chicago, a physical representation of my expanding life rather than the diminished one Brad predicted when he drove away. The doorbell chimes that afternoon as I prune vines on the south slope. Joaquin signs for a package and brings it to me American postage, my parents' handwriting. Inside, letters penned in my mother's distinctive script offer apologies for believing Brad's version of events, for not searching harder, for momentarily forgetting the daughter they raised. We're sorry we failed you, my mother writes. We understand if you need more time. Beneath the letters lie photographs my 5th birthday with cake-smeared face, high school graduation, my first design award. The past I'd nearly abandoned in my flight forward. That night, I carefully arranged these images on my cottage wall, alongside pressed vine leaves and sketches of the vineyard. Not separate lives, but a continuous journey. At sunset, I climb the hillside path that winds above the vineyard. Below, lights flicker on in the tasting room for evening visitors, glowing like earthbound stars against the darkening landscape. My phone vibrates in my Pocata new email notification. Request for consultation. Hotel Maritimo, Algeciras, Portugal, seeks design services for sustainable renovation. The coastal town where Brad abandoned me now reaches out for my expertise. I trace the outline of the vineyard with my eyes, feeling the poetic symmetry. My thumbs move across the screen, composing my response. Available for consultation. My rate is €150, hour plus travel expenses, portfolio and references attached. The breeze carries the scent of ripening grapes as I press send.